Welcome, it's Mad. And today we're going to go over the legendary flight event where we can get the legendary birds starting January 20th and ending February 9th and actually making Max Mondays incredibly useful. So let's go. All right, so we're going to have legendary flight Max Mondays. So January 20th, we will get Dynamax Articuno. 27th, we'll get Zapdos. And on February 3rd, we will get Moltres. From the rest of the week, the Articuno, Zapdos, and Moltres on their Max Mondays through that Sunday will be available. But the only real time that you're going to have a guaranteed showing will be between 6 and 7 p.m. on the Max Mondays, all based off your local time. On top of those 5-star max battles, you will also, depending on each week, be able to get for the week of Articuno, you'll be able to get Charmander, Beldum, and Scorbunny. And everything is shiny capable other than Scorbunny, Grookey, and Subble. So when Zapdos is out, you'll be able to get Bulbasaur, Cryogano, and Grookey. And finally, with Moltres, you'll get Squirtle, Krabby, and Sobble. They're not really incredibly useful overall, but some of them can be useful for each of the units overall. All right, so let's go over Moltres. This is before I have the Dynamax numbers, but overall the IVs usually don't change. All right, let's go through Zapdos. Zapdos is weak to ice and rock, and we really are going to be only able to focus with ice units overall. And strong to bug, fighting, flying, grass, ground, and steel, so avoid those units at all costs. Zapdos charged moves has Sky with Drill Peck, Rock with Ancient Power, and 3 lightning moves. The IVs are 2015 for Hundo and 2519 with Wind and Rain as its key elements. The best team setup, your attackers are going to be ice-based, so G-Max Lapras is your best overall, as G-Max is always going to be stronger than Dynamax, followed by Crygano, and then D-Max Lapras. And really, those are your only attackers that are really going to do a lot of damage to Zapdos. If you don't have that, go ahead, you can bring in a fire unit or any other unit that it's neutral to, but really you're going to be focusing on ice. And because of that, Zapdos is going to feel a little tankier because ice, at least the ones that we have right now, aren't really the best attackers overall. Tanks, this kind of stinks because your tanks really are going to struggle. And the reason that they're going to struggle is most of them are going to use their quick attacks that Zapdos is strong to, so you're not going to do nearly as much damage. And this one is, I feel Zapdos is going to be the hardest for smaller teams of the 3. Excadrill, though, is very, very strong against electric and rock. Even with its low defense and poor attacks, it is the best tanker. You will be able to use that without shields because of its ability to absorb 36% of the damage. And if you need to, I would bring in maybe even 2 Excadrills instead of bringing in 2 attack units. Or Rillaboom is actually a pretty good attack tank if you use Scratch as your attack, as it will be neutral damage overall. And it might work better than Excadrill depending on your team overall. The third best tank is Venusaur, but honestly, that is a last resort. I would either suggest Excadrill because of its absolute ability to absorb damage, or to use Rillaboom because the Rillaboom will be able to at least attack with a neutral attack overall. I would highly suggest that you avoid Drill Peck, and if you have to use Rillaboom, that I would also avoid Ancient Power as well with a small team. With a larger team, I'm not too worried about Zapdos' attacks overall. So my start would be either the Excadrill or Rillaboom. I would actually go with Excadrill because it is by far the best. Drill Peck, though, it will tear apart the Excadrill, so that's why I highly suggest to avoid it with a small. For the Dynamax Zapdos team setup, the best way is really 2 level 50s with level 3 attack and level 2 plus guard. This one, I'm a little worried about only having 2 level 50s. I still think it will be closer. Zapdos is a little bit rougher from the calculations that I have right now. 3 level 40 trainers with level 3 attack will have a pretty easy, though, way to beat it with 2+ guard. As I say, if you have 2 level 50s and 2 other trainers, then it will be a pretty easy carry, even if the 2 other trainers are weak, because they can feint cheering when they're fully fainted. And that itself is really just going to be a huge help. As I say, with 4 players, 1 or 2 carries, as long as the other 2 are fine, actually are very helpful and a lot more helpful than you would think. And once again, without having the rock type Dynamax or Gigantamax, it's making it so hard because ice is such a weak type to attack compared to a lot of the others that a little bit more bump is necessary compared to the others. Each trainer should bring a Gmax Lapras, Excadrill, and either Rillaboom or Venusaur. And when I say this, I usually say the people who are going to be fighting. The carries can bring whatever they can bring in. Obviously, if they can bring in something similar to even just whittle it down a little bit before they die, that's great. As I say, all Pokemon should be level 40 or higher. And if you're doing the 2, it probably needs to be level 45 to 50. The Lapras needs the 3rd level attack. Any being short at all is really going to hurt, as the rest of the bonuses that you're going to be getting is going to be lower compared to the other 2 teams, or not teams, other 2 birds. Excadrill and Extra Unit will need the shield attack. I don't think they need to heal at the 3rd level, but definitely shield and attack. It'd be ideal if the heal was at 3rd level as well. If Drill Peck is used, I would just suggest to restart. If you feel comfortable, or if you have a really high-end team, then you can ignore that. And I would start with Excadrill because it will be able to tank incredibly well. Hit shield all 3 times, and then with that, you should be able to switch to Lapras throughout most of the fight. And kind of depending, as the fight gets on, it will attack harder. And because it attacks harder, you might not be able to get away without said shields. And if your Excadrill teams get whittled down, have someone having a 3rd level heal, it would be absolutely huge. Switching to the Lapras would give the most amount of heal overall. Personally, I would have the Lapras with 3rd level attack and 3rd level heal if you're trying to pump up your teams for these. That would be ideal, as Lapras is the best healing unit right now for Dynamax or Gigantamax in the game. And for 4, just use the best Pokemon available. And once again, I really want to say, if you are being carried and you faint, cheering is incredibly powerful and incredibly helpful. Right. Finally, we have Articuno. Articuno takes double damage from rock. Once again, Neon Tech. This is the first time that you've really messed up, I feel, overall in this. Quickly, it is strong to bug, grass, and does have double strength against ground. Overall, it's IVs 1743. And with most, at least currently, North American being snow, would be 2179. Setup, best attackers. Really, it's going to be a mix between your Gmax Toxtricity or Gmax Charizard. Literally, this one is so close with the attacks. Look at the CP. If the CPs are exactly the same, whichever has the better attack IVs will be the strongest of the 2. Right now, it is Toxtricity, but it's so close that it really just depends on which one is the best. And CPs are the easiest, but it's obviously by level. And then the 3rd best one is going to be your Metagross, but that is going to be your best true tank combo, tank and attack hybrid. But your best tank is Lapras because of its double resistance to ice, neutral to sky, and weak to rock. The best attack tank, though, is if you use Bullet Punch to attack with Steel, is going to be the Metagross. It's neutral to sky. It's better offensively than Lapras. And Blastoise is by far the third overall for the tanks. And honestly, if you don't have either the Lapras or the Metagross, I would rather see people put in both Toxicity and Charizard instead. And Blastoise you really don't want to put into. And once again, Articuno's charge moves have a Sky, Ground, and 4 Ice. So the team setup here is going to be pretty much the same overall. But because of the ability to kind of do a hybrid attack and tank. All right, for the Dynamax Articuno team setup. So I've got 3 different strategies here. For the Articuno, it's for 2 level 45s or 3 level 40 trainers, as I think Articuno is the easiest one of the 3. And if we had a rock type Dynamax or Gigantamax, obviously, it would be it will be very hard for 2 trainers by themselves, but I think with the 2 level 45s, it will be probably possible. But if we did have the rock types, 2 would be a cinch. Target is going to have at least that, and we want each trainer to bring in a Gmax Toxicity or Charizard. Basically, it's the highest CP as your decision maker. Lapras and a Metagross. The attacker really needs that 3rd level attack, and honestly, I feel the level 3 attack and at least one with level 3 shields is more important than level 45. If you have 2 level 45s with the level 3, it might be enough. But if you could get a 3rd trainer that's there, even if it dies quickly to do the cheering, that will be enough to get you through. If you see Hurricane, I would advise just to restart, especially with the Dynamax. If we had a few more players that we could get in there, then it'd be a little bit easier to ignore. First transition, switch to Lapras and hit shield all 3 times. Then tank with Lapras, and if you have enough shield, switch to attacker to attack shields. Hold. Remember, we've only got 5 minutes, and this is why the 2 level 45s I worry about only because of the time. If we didn't have the time, it would be soloable, but that time is definitely the key thing for the Dynamax high level Pokemon that I most worry about. For 4 level 40 trainers with 1 or level 2 attacks, just use the best Pokemon available. You should be able to do it with the level 1 or 2 attacks. Gmax if possible. If you do have 2 level 40s with a level 3 on the top, you can bring 2 carries. If you have 3 with level 2, you can bring 1 carry. Otherwise, if they're all level 1s, then you really won't have much of a carry, and you will have a bit of a struggle because those attacks, you do need those level ups at the very least. And without large shields, you will have to either heal or just try and survive. And if you're trying to survive, that's always a risk. Dynamax Moltres is incredibly weak to rock. And actually, all of the birds are weak to rock. And the big issue is we do not have a Dynamax or Gigantamax that is able to attack, at least when it transforms, with a rock attack. And this is going to make it a lot harder. And honestly, I'm a little disappointed. Niantic really should have given us a rock unit. But with Moltres, we will be attacking with electric and water, as it is still weak to those. It takes reduced damage to fairy, fighting, fire, ground, steel, and double resistant to bug and grass. Overall, this is actually a very interesting unit. Moltres' charge moves, and these are important, has 3 fire, 1 rock, and 1 sky. And overall, I will say that if you have a large group, these are going to be, I wouldn't say an absolute breeze, but pretty easy to beat. But because we do not have a rock type, I do not really see a 4 trainer team being able to carry by itself. And I think the bare minimum is going to be 8 to 12 trainers overall. If you're level 50 and you have really the correct all units, you may be able to, but I'm not entirely sure if you're going to be able to take down the birds within the 5-minute limit, but it should be real close. So I can't say it's impossible, but I think it's pretty unlikely. All teams except for the absolute strongest will be able to do so. All right, I'm gonna try to give you everybody a team setup, the 3 best attackers and 3 best tanks. Um, Generally, you're only really gonna try and do 1 attacker, unless if that attacker also goes into the tank category, which luckily we do have, which means an 8 to 12 person team should be able to take out Moltres easier than some of the other potential units. So the best attacker is actually Toxtricity. It has the highest attack for Gmax, and we're only going to be choosing Gmax for the attacker overall. It actually can take Sky Attack if you really want to, but since Moltres can do 2 potential moves and Toxtricity doesn't really want to see any of the others, you're not really going to be tanking with Toxtricity at all, but it'd be your main Gmax. I personally feel that Toxtricity is really only going to be used if you have a pretty large group, as a really good attacker is actually going to be Blastoise. Not nearly as powerful, but you're going to be using your Gmax Blastoise. It can tank as well. The main thing, though, is you're really going to want to avoid Ancient Power and probably Sky Attack as well. But it is a very good tank. It has the highest defense and super strong against fire. And finally, Inteleon is the best D-Max attack, but it's attack only. It is way too weak in defense to be able to take any attacks overall. So if you do not have a G-Max Toxtricity or G-Max Blastoise, you're going to be looking for Inteleon, and then you're going to be looking for Toxtricity and Blastoise for your D-Maxes if you're trying to help out and you're not super strong with a larger group. Tanks, as I say, is Blastoise, followed by Charizard. It doesn't matter if it's D-Max or Gigantamax. It is the next best for fire. It's neutral to sky, but you've got to absolutely avoid Ancient Power. And then we're going to go with Kingler as the 3rd best tank overall. Once again, for tanks, for absorbing damage, you don't care if it's Dynamax or Gigantamax. And the only reason I suggest as your tank for Blastoise as a G-Max is because it is a combo attack tanker for this. And that's actually pretty powerful for Moltres or any unit if you can do a combo, as that is the easiest way to ensure safety, but still do very good damage for each and every transformation. So my suggested team is to start out with Charizard. You have your Gmax Toxtricity as your main attack and backup with Blastoise, but let's go over what I think a smaller team may actually want to do instead. Dynamax Moltres team setup. This is another going to call level 50. I think level 45 is enough. Level 3 level or 3 level 40s. You want a Gmax Toxtricity, Gmax Blastoise, and a Charizard. The Toxtricity needs a 3rd level attack. Blastoise will need shield, attack, heal at 3rd level. The Charizard's kind of your backup, especially if your Blastoise is near death. You want to switch to the Charizard and then switch back to heal. If Ancient Power is used, I highly suggest you restart. It's just, it could do so much damage that it's going to be hard to do a lot of attacks overall. Start with Charizard, try to get through, go to Blastoise, shield up at the first 2 transitions, and then attack once. I would rather see Toxtricity attack if you can, but if you feel comfortable and you think you're doing enough damage over time, you can just attack and tank with Blastoise overall. That's kind of your group's call, especially after the first one overall. And I just want to repeat, if you are being carried, and honestly, having a team of 4 is ideal, even if the other 2 are just bringing in level 10 or 20 Pokemon. That is great, because when they faint, they will be able to cheer, and that will help your carries transition faster and more often. And to be honest, that in itself is huge, as all of these fights will be timed at between 5 and 5.5 minutes. Usually it's around 5:20, 5:30. With that, I hope you guys enjoyed. More importantly, if you like this material, please like and subscribe, as I try to do this for my community. And if I can help your community as well, I'm very happy to do so. But with that, I hope everyone gets a hundo, or a shundo even. And more importantly, I promise to do better next time. I'll see you guys later.